Hi guys, so today I'm going to be doing a first impression review on the new L'Oreal Infallible Pro Glow 24-Hour Foundation. And I do have 7 of the shades to show you today that I will give you some swatches on so you can see a shade comparison on those. This range does have 12 different shades in it, but I don't have shade 201 through 205, but I do have the rest of the shades so that I can show you guys those shades. This foundation is kind of the sister of the very much loved L'Oreal Infallible Pro Matte Foundation, and this foundation is an awesome foundation. It's a holy grail foundation for a lot of people. It's probably my favorite drugstore foundation. It's just a very awesome foundation, and I do recommend this foundation if you are in the market for a good affordable drugstore matte foundation. So the claims on this foundation, it says it's a lasting glow foundation, never dull, never greasy. The finish is a radiant finish. The wear is up to 24 hours. The coverage is a medium coverage and the texture is air light. Now I did apply that foundation today. You will see that in a demo which will be coming after this portion, but that's what I'm wearing on my face right now. And so far, well, you'll just have to wait and see how it's living up to the claims. So just going back into like a little comparison on these two. This one is claimed to have a demi-matte finish. It's also 24 hours. It's also medium coverage, and it's also said to have a air light texture to it. So really the only difference, according to the back of the packaging, is the finish of the foundation. It's still supposed to do all the great things that this foundation does, so we will see in the demo if it does. The other difference is, if you can notice the packaging, the matte one has the matte packaging and the glowy one has the shiny packaging. So that I thought was really kind of cool. So it kind of coordinates with the finish of the foundation itself. The other thing I noted, which I am shade 209 Caramel Beige in this foundation, and I'm Caramel Beige in the Pro Matte as well, but Caramel Beige is 108 in the Pro Matte and it's 209 in the Pro Glow. So just something to note. I did notice that the Caramel Beige and the glowy finish was a little bit darker than the Caramel Beige in the Pro Matte. So that's just something else to note. But if you just wanted a shade reference, that's my shade reference, or that's my shade in these two foundations. Other foundations that I wear is, well, I don't wear, but I'm an NC42 in MAC. I wear the Estee Lauder Double Wear Light Foundation, and I'm a 4 in that, and regular double wear, I think I'm a 4W1 or 4W2. Yeah, that's all I can think of right now. So what I'll go ahead and do is I will insert a clip of the swatches of the colors for you, and I'll make sure to put a label on the color so that you can see what number each shade is. So that was all the specs on this foundation. Now we're going to go ahead and get into the demo portion of the video, where I will show me applying it, and we'll do some check-ins throughout the day to see how this foundation wears. So the directions on the bottle say to shake it well and dot onto skin in a rolling motion for flawless coverage. So I'm going to be applying it in 2 different ways. On one side, I'm going to be applying it with a beauty blender, and on the other side, I'm going to use a makeup brush. Now, I know when a lot of people do these tests, they like to not use any primers or any powders or any setting sprays. But in my opinion, if you're testing out a foundation, you should do everything you normally do with all your other foundations. If you kind of think of it like a science experiment, in a science experiment, you're only supposed to have one variable, which is one thing that you change. So if you're trying out a new foundation, and let's say you normally always wear a primer, and when you try the foundation you don't wear a primer, then the difference that you're seeing in the foundation and how it wears and coverage and how it looks on your skin could be due to the fact that you're not wearing a primer and not just the foundation. So I'm going to do everything I normally do when I apply this foundation. I am going to use a primer, and I'm going to be using 2 different primers. I'm going to be using the Benefit Professional Primer, and then I'm also going to be using the Makeup Forever Mattifying Primer. And I usually just use this on the areas where I can tend to get a little bit oily or shiny. And then this I'm going to use pretty much on the rest of my face, anywhere where I have larger pores, which is kind of in this area right here on my face. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. So now that I've primed my skin, I am going to go ahead and apply the foundation, and I am going to do as the directions suggest, and I'm going to shake it up really well. Shake it, shake it like a Polaroid picture. Shake it, shake it. And this foundation is very, very liquidy. You can see it's quickly running down my hand. And the matte formula does not do that. It kind of just stays in place where you put it. So it's definitely thinner than the matte formula. So yeah, I'm just going to dot it with my finger first on my face. And then I'm going to blend it out. And I think I'm going to do this. Ooh, I think I'm going to do this side with the Beauty Blender. So. Alright, so I'm going to take my dampened Beauty Blender and I'm just going to blend that in. So that's what it looks like blended in, and I do really like the way that it looks. It has a really nice, natural, radiant finish, as the description says, and I really like it. The color is just like a hair darker than my skin tone, but it's perfectly fine. Like, it's not that bad, and once I add my highlight and bronzer and all that, I'm sure it'll be perfect. I've heard other people say that it oxidizes, so if this does oxidize on me, it may end up being too dark, but we'll just have to see how that wears throughout the day. And I made sure to blend it like really good into my hairline, since it was like, especially there, you could see it was a little bit darker. But I do really like it, and I'm going to go ahead and just add another light layer and just see how this foundation kind of builds up, and see if I can get a little bit more coverage. But I would say this is a nice medium coverage right here. So I didn't go crazy with it, I just added like where I needed it. And let's just see how this layers. So I think it layers flawlessly. I don't see like any patchiness, or I didn't see that the foundation like caked up anywhere or anything like that. So I give it an A+ in that department. And again, the finish looks still really, really beautiful. And I would say this is like a strong medium. It's not like a light medium. It's kind of like a on the higher side of coverage for a medium. It's definitely not full, but it is a good, strong medium coverage. So let's go ahead and see how it applies on the other side of my face using a brush. Now the brush that I'm going to use on this side of my face is the Artiste. Why is there like hair on everything I pick up and show? The brush that I'm going to be using is the Artiste Oval 7 brush, and it looks like that. It's really densely packed. This is only going to be like my second or third time using this brush, but I do really, really like the way that this brush applies my foundation. So we'll see how it does with this foundation. So I'm going to do the same thing and just dot it over and then blend it out. So I'm going to do the same thing I did on this side. I'm just going to add a little bit more product in the areas that I want a little bit more coverage, and see how that applies with the brush and how that builds with the brush. is the completed side with the brush. And I do think this foundation does look really good either way, with the Beauty Blender or the brush. But I do think I prefer using the Beauty Blender with this foundation. I just like the way that it blends out, and I think it works really well with this kind of thinner consistency of foundation. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents on that. And again, overall, the finish of this foundation on its own is just absolutely gorgeous. I do really love the way that it looks right now. It has a really nice natural finish to it, and it just kind of looks like skin. Doesn't look like too dewy and too glowy, and it's definitely not matte at all. It just looks like skin, and it has a really nice natural glow to it, which I hope that it wears this way throughout the day, and I hope it doesn't like get really greasy looking. We're just gonna cross our fingers and see how it wears, but right now it's gorgeous. And if the finish of this foundation stays like this may be in my top foundation category. So we'll just have to see how it wears. I am going to go ahead and finish up the rest of my makeup. Like I said, I am going to do the same process I always do with my other foundations. So I'm going to set this foundation with a powder, and I'm just going to use a light powder. This is the MAC Mineralized Skin Finish Natural, and this powder tends to have a more natural look to it. It's not really heavy, so I think it'll work well with this foundation. And this is usually the powder I use most of the time to set my foundation. I'm not going to go really heavy-handed with it. I'm just going to go very lightly, just so I have a light layer of powder to apply my powder products on top, like my bronzer and blush and highlight. So yeah, let me go ahead and do that, and I'll come back to you with a check-in. So I went ahead and finished the rest of my makeup. If you're interested, I'll put details down below in what I have on my face and all that good stuff. But I just lightly set the foundation with the powder that I showed you, and of course I set my under eye area with a different powder. I used Laura Mercier, but I do think that the foundation did keep most of its radiance, even though I set it lightly with the powder. So that's nice that the finish of the foundation does kind of peek through the powder that you put on top. Of course, if you were to set it really heavily, probably not as much, but that's just something to keep in mind if you do plan on wearing a powder over this foundation. And I also did lightly mist my face with my Urban Decay All Nighter Makeup Setting Spray, because that's something that I always do every time I do my makeup. So just bear that in mind as well. So it is 3:34. I think I'm going to check in with you guys maybe in about 2 hours. I know it's kind of late for these videos. I know most people normally start these videos like in the morning, but that's just not doable for me. So I'm going to wear it as long as I can. Probably 8 hours. I'm going to try to wear it for 8 hours so you guys can see how it wears throughout the day. So I'll check in like maybe 2 hours, 2 to 3 hours from now, and we'll see how it's wearing. I am going to go outside, so pray for me on that, because it's like maybe 100 degrees outside. I live in Florida, and it's just so hot and humid here, so I hope this foundation can hold up. We'll see. I am going to take a picture for you guys so you can see what it looks like with flash photography. This foundation does have an SPF in it, SPF 15, so sometimes foundations with SPFs can give a flashback due to the SPF in the foundation. So we'll see if this foundation has that, and then we'll check in about 2 to 3 hours. Okay guys, so the time now is 7:13, and I wanted to check in with you 3 hours after the last time I saw you, but I had some issues with my camera, and my camera actually just like died on me. It gave me some error message, so I switched it out, and I'm using my old camera, which is my T4i. I normally film on the Canon 70D, but I have to figure out what's going on with that. I was trying to work on the issue and look up the error code and figure out what it was, but I wasn't able to fix it, so I just hooked up my old camera. I'm not sure if how different the lighting looks or anything like that, but hopefully it doesn't look too bad. But yeah, anyway, so it's been almost 4 hours. Yeah, almost 4 hours. In about 15 minutes it'll be 4 hours since the last time we checked in. And let me just take a look here. I think, well, first of all, my hair is like that hair gel left like ashy stuff, flaky stuff. Anyway, yeah, it still looks good to me. I noticed that like it looks a little bit more glowy or shiny or oily. I wouldn't really say oily, like I don't look oily, but I do look more like glowy than when I first applied it, which is fine. Like right now it's tolerable, but I would say if it gets any more oily looking or glowy looking than what it looks right now, I would definitely touch it up. The people above me are so loud. I just want to, if it gets any more glowy looking than what it looks right now, I definitely would touch it up. I'd want to like blot my face or powder or both. So we will see again, you know, how it progresses and how much more glowy looking it gets in a couple of more hours. But I say right now it still looks good. I'm not noticing like any, like it's not breaking up on my skin or anything like that. It still looks good. Let me touch my face and see if it transfers. It's hard to tell. Yeah, it does transfer a little bit because I touched my face and then I wiped it on this piece of napkin and there was some stuff on the napkin. So when you touch your face, it does transfer off. So something to note there, but it doesn't look bad. It still looks good. So yeah, we'll check in again in another couple of hours, maybe 2 to 3 hours. So we'll see how it wears. I want to try to give you guys as close to 8 hours as I can, but that would be pretty late. So we'll see. By the way, I did briefly go outside, maybe for about 10 minutes or so to take some pictures, but I've been indoors most of the time. It is pretty hot outside, so I didn't want to spend too much time out there, but I did go outside for a little bit, so yeah. Hi guys, I'm back. So the time is now 10:30, so that means it's about 7 hours since the initial application and it's about 3 hours since the last check-in. So yeah, I've been wearing this foundation for a total of 7 hours now. I didn't quite make it to 8 hours, but I figure it's good enough. Now I haven't touched up this foundation. I haven't blotted it, powdered it. I haven't done anything, and this is how it looks. It has gotten progressively oilier, shinier throughout the day, and it is now at a point where I would want to definitely blot it. I probably would have done that about 3 hours ago, but I haven't done that just for the purpose of this video so you can see how it wears without touching it up or doing anything. So let me just go ahead and blot. I don't know where my blotting papers are, but I just got the old-fashioned tissue, so I'm gonna blot with that and just see how that works. So blotting with the tissue did help to take off some of that excess oiliness and greasiness. That's what it looks like on the tissue there. So it does transfer, as I noted earlier, and I'm sure it would work a lot better blotting it with an actual blotting paper if I had that. But it can definitely be touched up and still look good. Like, it doesn't transfer off too much of the foundation, and if you put a powder on top, then you kind of add a little bit more coverage as well. So yeah, overall my thoughts on this foundation are I do really like the foundation. I probably would not wear this foundation for long periods of time. I probably would just wear my foundation that I always wear, which is my Double Wear Light foundation. That foundation lasts a long time without needing any touch-ups at all. But this one, I really love the finish of it. I forgot to mention, as far as the oxidizing, this foundation does oxidize a little bit. Don't know if you guys notice it, but it did get darker from the initial application. So that's just something else to note when you are selecting your color in this foundation. But again, I do like the foundation. I recommend it. Probably would not recommend it if you're on the oily side. My skin is more on the normal side, so if you are normal, maybe even combination, and definitely dry, I would recommend this to at least try this foundation out and see how you like it. The finish of it is absolutely gorgeous. when I first applied it and how that looked. I just love that, so I probably will definitely be wearing it for videos and pictures. If I wanted to wear foundation for a shorter period of time, maybe like 5 hours or less, I would definitely wear this foundation again. So I do highly recommend it, so go check it out. It should be in most of your local drugstores right now. And that completes my review and first impression reviews and swatches and thoughts and all that good stuff on the L'Oreal Pro Glow foundation. If you like this video and you want me to do more foundation videos like this, then please give this video a thumbs up, and until next time, I'll see you guys in my next video.